Hi everyone, happy 2017. Welcome to January's patron only question and answer or Q&A. We have a bunch of new patrons this month, so welcome to Patreon and thank you so much for your support. Before we get started with the question and answer, I just wanted to point out a couple changes to the patron campaign. It probably won't be the last change, but if you look along the side there for our milestones, I've gone ahead and actually removed the $4,000 milestone, which previously was to bring back the Ask Chef Brian strips. And what I've done was I've moved up to that slot the additional analog and D-pad Ethan Lucas one shot for all patrons each month. So if we can hit that mark, then every patron, no matter what pledge level, will get that additional Ethan and Lucas comic strip each month. I know that there are some people out there that enjoy Chef Brian. Not enough, I feel, for it to warrant being a global milestone for the patron campaign. But even I would like to see him come back on a limited basis, so I am exploring options for bringing him back. It may be in the form of a dedicated pledge level, somewhere right around the middle, that'll get you access to an additional Ask Chef Brian comic strip each month. I'm still kind of playing with that. I want to make sure that I don't overload myself too much. First, I want to see if we can hit this next milestone. Get everybody that additional Ethan and Lucas one-shot, since I've been talking to people and kind of getting some feedback, and I think that's one of the main things that people want is just more Ethan and Lucas, and I totally agree. So I want to see if we can make that happen, and like the milestone says, that's in addition to what the $5 patrons get. So no matter what you pledge, if we hit that milestone, you get that one Ethan and Lucas one shot, and then but if you pledge at the $5 level, then each month you'll be getting two. So so I'm excited. So we're pretty close. And we'll see if we can hit that. And then what I'll do over the next month or two is further tweak things and shift things around. I might even play with some of the higher pledge levels and like I said, move things around. But I'm gonna take it slow and make sure that I don't take on too much. So with that said, let's get to some questions for the month. Okay, so Paul F asks, how many issues of each series are you planning for the year, and are you finding yourself moving along faster or slower than you were last year? So how many issues am I planning this year? That is the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? So I would say that I'm planning, or that I would like to see 2 to 3 issues of each series. And when I'm talking about series, I'm talking about the comic book issues that I do, Analog and D-Pad, and the Starcaster Chronicles. I would love to see 3 issues each year. But then now I'm going to say realistically, it's probably going to be closer to 2. And even then, that's going to be, I have a feeling that's going to be close. But that's probably what's going to happen is we'll get 2 of each this year. In terms of how relatively quickly or slowly I'm moving, I think I am moving probably a little bit slower these days than I might have a few years ago, or than I might in another couple of years. And the reason for that is just where the point I'm at in my life. I am in probably what I would consider is going to be one of the toughest periods of my life, where and what I mean by that is I have 2 small kids, and Flynn is 3 years old and Weston is just turned 8 months old. So that's a lot of work. They demand there's a lot of intention, and that sort of thing. Like we had Flynn, and just as we started getting to this point where he was he's becoming independent, he was autonomous, and we sort of had everything figured out, and we had like this rhythm going and this schedule, and everything was sort of predictable. Then we had Weston, and we sort of like went back to the beginning, where like now we have a baby who changes. Like, I mean, it's just even his sleep schedule just changes, because from month to month, because they change so much at that age, and they grow so fast. So where I'm at right now is just it's a really busy and tough point in my life, and we also have this house. We bought this house with the intention of doing some renovations and changing some things. So we've been doing that over the last few years, and that's a big project too. It's it takes a lot of, the office that I'm in actually right now is intended to be Weston's bedroom, but I'm using it as my office because my office downstairs is not yet finished. So there's just a lot going on right now, which makes it kind of difficult to do as much work as I would like to. Not that I have any regrets about that, because I have, like I said, I have responsibilities to my family and that sort of thing, and so it's just a matter of juggling, making sure that I'm giving my wife and kids the attention that they need and deserve, and giving my work the attention that it needs and deserves. So but I don't get to like work all day every day, like I might otherwise, or I might have done a few years ago, or like I said, like I might do in another couple of years. Again, when the kids are older, I expect things are just going to loosen up a little bit, get a little bit easier, and especially once they start school, that'll free me up quite a bit. But there are a couple things, so Starcaster, just by the nature of how it works, in that I let the audience vote on it, and you guys, so I tend to have to wait to see the results, and then I can draw the next page and that sort of thing. So as a result of that, Starcaster is probably always going to be my responsibility artistically, just because it's hard enough as it is working with someone else to color those pages. You've seen what happens. We end up with these 2 to 3 days, 5 days go between when I have to put the page up and when the colored page arrives. Now, I mean, can you imagine that if I was also waiting on somebody for like the line art? I mean, it wouldn't really work. So, Starcaster, I'm always going to be fairly limited in terms of like what I'm able to produce, because I have to do it myself. Analog and D-pad, on the other hand, I kind of set out wanting to do the first 5 issues myself, but I'm not entirely married to the idea of needing to do it myself. And I know that that's going to kind of, the idea of me not drawing it might make some people a little uncomfortable, because that's a pretty big change. But, realistically, if I want to produce more of that, if I want to get more issues of Analog and D-pad out a year, I could conceivably do that by just doing the writing duties and then overseeing an artist and a colorist in terms of producing the issues. So that is something I might explore after I'm finished with issue 5, because like I said, issue 5 was sort of like the first kind of chapter, the first section. I wanted to do that myself. I wanted to be directly involved in all of that, but at the same time, I have like all these stories that I want to tell, and I want to get them out. So it might be worth trying to find an artist to work with on that. And again, it would have to be the right artist. It would have to be the right style. And then not only am I looking for like the right artistic style, then it's got to be somebody that can actually meet deadlines and that sort of thing. So there's no guarantees that that's the road I'm going to go, but I could. And it's something I might look into, just again, just for the sake of producing more content. So Roderick asks, after what issue do you think we will see a Starcaster book printed? Good news, it's after issue 5, which we just wrapped up. I think I said in a previous video that I view issues 1 through 5 as kind of the first chapter of the Starcaster Chronicles. Because we've gone from kind of being introduced to those characters and learning about a little bit about the universe and about the the Starcaster, to finally getting there, finally locating the Starcaster, and we've kind of opened ourselves up, or Court has kind of unwittingly thrown himself into what is now like this huge galactic conflict. So that's a good place, I think, to collect those first 5 issues into a book. And my philosophy whenever I'm taking my work and putting into a book is, because obviously I give my work away for free 95% of the time. Anything I do is up on the website for free. So if I'm going to then turn around and take that work, put it into a book and ask somebody to pay money for it, my philosophy has always been that there has to be something extra. There has to be something more. So I'm definitely gonna be loading up the Starcaster, the first Starcaster printed book with a bunch of extras. So not only will you get the first 5 issues, obviously, and those will be tweaked a little bit. I have to re-letter the first few issues because the word balloon style and stuff that I used for the first couple of issues is different than what I was using for the last couple of issues, so I want that all to match. So what I'll do is I'll go through those first 5 issues, make sure that there are no like coloring errors, this or that, like kind of just really make sure everything's unified. So you'll get like the best version of those first 5 issues. You'll also get a bunch of like lore and world building stuff. Like I'm going to do profiles on all of the different races that we saw, a breakdown of like exactly what the United Federation, like how that operates, what that is, what that organization is, the different branches of that organization. A little bit about the AUG, stuff that the characters in the story would know, because the AUG are sort of this ever-present, kind of entity. Stuff that they would know, but maybe they haven't necessarily worked into conversation for your benefit yet. So that, you'll get a bunch of that stuff. I'm going to throw in a bunch of concept art sketches that I've done. You'll get looks at different, close-up looks at the ships and the armor and just all sorts of stuff like that. And then the biggie is going to be an entire section where I go through each individual choice that was made over those first 5 issues. I'm going to reference the page number. I'm going to say on this page, this was the choice that the audience had, and then it's going to be, a section where I just discuss for each of those choices what could have been. You obviously see what happens with the choice that was made, but what would have happened, to whatever extent I feel like I can extrapolate on it, what would have happened if a different choice had been made. So, because it's not realistic for me to actually draw out the myriad of different choices, that we've come across, but it's definitely something that I want to explore a little bit. I definitely want to sate people's curiosity in terms of because they didn't get to see what exactly the different choices would have led to. There will be a whole section of this print book dedicated to, to talking about that. So you'll kind of, like I said, get a look at what might have been. So I'm going to start working on that really soon. I have one other project for a company I have to finish up, and then I'm kind of freed up. I want to try and get going on that, and we'll run a Kickstarter, and we'll see. I gotta look at the logistics of it, see if I want to do it in like a nice hardcover, if it's even worth doing that, or. But yeah, we're definitely gonna get going on that this year. Okay, Felcron has an interesting question. He asks, or he states and then asks, the original CAD comic ran for many years with a great extended ending later on. Do you envision the current stories to last as long, or are you wanting to limit how long they run for? So first of all, everything has an end. Whether we wanted to or not, and sometimes we feel it's premature and whatever, but everything comes to an end. But I'm not trying to artificially put an expiration date on anything that I'm doing. CAD 1.0, I brought it to a close for many reasons, but most of which being I just felt like I had done everything that I really was excited about doing with that particular iteration of Ethan and Lucas. And that's not to say that I thought like, oh, I have nothing else to do with these characters. Obviously, that's not true, because I rebooted that whole timeline to use them again. But it was more like a lot of, and I've explained this numerous times in posts and this and that, but the gist of it is that a lot of the decisions I had made with that particular Ethan and Lucas had been made very early on, or had been made solely focused on the moment, on whatever joke I was trying to tell in the moment, and with less consideration towards like the long-term viability of the story, or of what those individual jokes might be doing to inform the personality of the characters over a long period of time, years and years. So, but to get back to the point, in terms of like analog and D-pad, the Starcaster Chronicles, the Console Wars, everything that I do, basically I will work on it for as long as the work inspires me, as long as it excites me, as long as I'm like psyched to get out of bed in the morning and kind of put stuff down on paper. But at the same time, you don't want to overstay your welcome. Like I don't want to just put out something just for the sake of putting it out. So, there's a balance there, and I think that when it's time for one of those things to end, which hopefully won't be for again, many years, but it is inevitable, and I hope that when it's time for one to end, I'll see that and it can be done naturally. I do want to say though that the new Ethan and Lucas timeline, the analog and D-pad Ethan Lucas stuff, was designed for longevity. Like when I didn't sit down to reboot that timeline without taking into consideration like how do I do it without getting myself into exactly the same situation I ended up with the first time. So that was definitely designed a little bit differently, and not only because the content comes out at a slower rate, which gives me the benefit of that for me, as much as I would love to put stuff out faster and just get more stuff out. The benefit of it coming out a little bit slower is that I really get to kind of take some time and examine and make sure, like, yes, this is what I want to happen with this character. I have more time to. I'm not like rushing to like oh, I need to do a comic tomorrow. Quick throw out this joke. Like I have time to consider how that particular interaction will make a character look, how it'll make the character come across, and so I feel like I have more control. But and also we now have the kind of the two elements to the Ethan and Lucas. Like they're still Ethan and Lucas, but they also have this, like, they have these superpowers and they have these adventures. So I can do both the the sitting on the couch, the game store stuff. I can do the two guys stuff, but then work, but also do like the adventure stuff. It's all part of the same thing. So that, and also, like those can be two separate things, but also when those things collide, it, opens up a lot of really interesting storytelling avenues. So there's just a lot more to explore with this newer version of Ethan and Lucas. This was designed to go, hopefully, fingers crossed, at least another, the 10 years, if not longer. It's not, it was very difficult for me to end it the first time. It's not, ending a project, especially something that you love, it's difficult. So, it's not something I'm trying to do, but, at the same time, it's important to be cognizant of the fact that, endings are kind of a necessity. So there's no need to worry about endings anytime soon. Okay, and finally this month, Harold Wong wanted to know if I made any New Year's resolutions. Kind of. I don't really wholly believe in New Year's resolutions because, like most people, by February I've completely forgotten about it. But this year I do want to, I want to try and just get better at scheduling. Like, I'm not terrible at time management. Obviously, I've been doing this long enough that I always meet all of my deadlines and fulfill all of my responsibilities. I'm aware enough of, roughly how long different things take and how to fit them all in so that, in a given month, everything that I need to get done, it gets done. But at the same time, I feel like I could be even better at time management. Like, I think I need to, especially now with kids, I need to really kind of plan out my day a little bit better, exactly what I'm going to work on. It is tough because, something that I think like, oh, that'll take 3 hours, could end up taking 5, and it just messes other things up. But in general, I definitely want to, try to get a little bit better about, scheduling and time management and that sort of thing. Just so that I can fit in as much as possible, get as much work done as possible. And also to that effect, my other resolution for the year, and we'll see if I can stick with it, is no new outside projects. I am trying to finish up one project I have for a company right now, and they were asking me to do even more work for them, and I I did say no. I was like, no, I can't. I got to stop taking on additional projects. And the reason for that is, I have a bunch of my own stuff that I want to do. So that's my other New Year's resolution, is just stop doing projects for other people and just work on a few of my own projects that I want to get done. So so again, we'll see how 2017 goes, and if I can stick to any of that. But I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited because hopefully we'll put out Starcaster, the first printed volume of the Starcaster Chronicles, maybe even the first printed volume of Analog and D-Pad, and the first CAD 2.0 collection, which will basically be anything that isn't Starcaster Chronicles or Analog and D-Pad will be collected into a book, from end of 2012 to like whenever now. That'll be its own book. So hopefully a few new books this year, maybe, if not released, at least a beta for a tabletop game I've been working on. And some changes to Patreon, maybe some better rewards or some shuffled rewards, including I'm not going to tell you. I got something. I got an idea, but I'm not ready to announce it yet. So we'll see. But yeah, all right. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for being patrons and for again supporting me in the comic. I look forward to your questions next month. We'll see you then.